focus on getting your baby oxygen. And it could not find the heartbeat. I was on a stretcher. Welcome back to my channel. My name's Kelsie and I am just gonna share my birth story with you guys today. I just had my second baby. Her name is Shiloh and she is 2 weeks old, and I really want to get this filmed, not only because I love watching birth story videos like this, but I also, for my own sake, really want to be able to watch this back and recall exactly how my birth went down, to even just think back on and be able to share. So it's crazy, and yeah, let's get into it. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe down below, like this video if you enjoyed it, and make sure to comment down below what you thought. And yeah, if you have any of your own birth crazy experiences that you want to share. So I hope she's not waking up here. She's just snoozing right next to me on my bed here. Oh, sweet girl. My other one is napping too. Big sister's napping. So I have limited amounts of time to complete this video, but yeah, let's just get into it. So August 25th, I started having some pre-labor contractions, and I had been having them for a couple nights in a row. Earlier that week, I had a membrane sweep to hopefully get things going because of that pre-labor. So I went into my appointment and I was, I think, 1 centimeter dilated and 50% effaced. So not very progressed, but I was having contractions that were like my first labor. So I was confused as to why nothing was progressing. They weren't really painful at all, but they were definitely contractions that kind of came in through my back and finished out through the front of my uterus, just like my first labor. But yeah, not increasing in intensity and not getting close together, just very sporadic throughout the day. I would just have a contraction here and there, and yeah, nothing would come of it. So had the membrane sweep earlier that week. I think that was Monday. And then Wednesday night is when I thought for sure I was gonna go into labor, because I went to bed with contractions that were definitely more intense than anything that I had prior, but less than what I knew to be real active labor. And because I didn't have an epidural with my first birth, I knew that things were really gonna have to ramp up before I was gonna go to the hospital at all. And my plan was to have my baby at a birth center. I had my first daughter there and I loved my experience. And so my plan was to have my second daughter there and actually do a water birth. So I was really excited to have all that come to fruition. And yeah, August 25th, I had those contractions through the night, and yeah, I would wake up a couple times throughout the night feeling a contraction. So they were painful enough to wake me up, but not painful enough for me to not be able to go back to sleep. And I really worked hard at going back to sleep because I knew once they were bad, it would wake me up and I would be it's go time. And that's what I thought would happen. Nothing happened though. And the morning came. I had some consistent contractions before my husband went to work, and I thought, man, I think he should stay home, but these aren't that bad. They're just not that bad. They were honestly a lot like Braxton Hicks, very tight in my stomach, but they came through my back in the beginning. And that was kind of how I differentiated them from Braxton Hicks, if that makes any sense. But it just wasn't staying consistent. Sometimes they would be 4 minutes apart. Other times it would just be 20 minutes between a contraction. So it just felt like nothing was progressing, and I didn't feel like I was dilating. I was losing my mucus plug though. So for any of you that are into following that stuff, my mucus plug came out throughout that whole last 2 days. So August 25th, I lost quite a bit, and then the 26th, the morning of, so much more came out, and it was really the thick old mucus that would be at the very top of your mucus plug. And so for any of you guys that just don't know about that stuff, and if this is TMI, just why are you watching this video in the first place? But yeah, so your mucus plug is they say usually 2 inches long, and or maybe it's 2 centimeters, it's one of the two, but usually it's the size of my thumb. And this beginning part that's towards the bottom of your cervix is going to be a lot looser, And then the top part is going to be like the real thick stuff that is protecting your baby from bacteria and any type of infection. And when you start to have the pressure of the baby's head come down onto your cervix, this begins to like loosen this up and it falls out. So that's a definite sign that labor is coming soon, but it could still be days or sometimes even weeks before you're really starting to have it's baby time. Like you just don't know. So the morning of the 26th, I did have some blood in my mucus plug, and so I would consider that bloody show. And that's when I was like, okay, it's probably today, but it's not really right now. Like, it doesn't feel like it's right now because it's not, the contractions were not consistent. They just weren't close together and they weren't that strong. So I was playing with my toddler all morning long, my daughter, and I felt like I was in labor, but it was a joke and it wasn't ever progressing. Like, I felt like I was gonna be in labor for days if it was gonna carry on super inconsistent and not painful. So right around noon, I noticed that they were getting much closer together. Like, I was on a walk and I would have them every 3 minutes. And as soon as we came home from the walk, they still were coming like every 3 to 4 minutes, but they just, I don't know if it's because my first labor, like, I knew how bad the intensity was going to get. I knew it was going to be much more like the contractions would take my breath away, and I was waiting for that moment, and none of these contractions were really like, take your breath away, this hurts really bad, like you can't talk or walk. Like, that's the intensity that I was looking for, and I hadn't found that yet, even in those contractions that were 3 to 4 minutes apart. But at the same time, I knew if they were that close together, like, this is my second labor, it might just be different. And so I called my husband home and we decided to go in. We got childcare. Thankfully my daughter was down for a nap, so I didn't have to like have a goodbye with her, because that was something that I didn't really expect. Like, I missed her so much. She's my first baby, and I didn't realize how big the tug of war was gonna be for me to just like leave her and not be with her. It was exciting to go meet this new baby, hopefully, possibly, but also really like sad because I was leaving her behind, and she's my first baby. So that was emotional. But we got in the car, packed up all our stuff, and I really thought that we were gonna get sent home because in the car my contractions just totally, like, I think I had like 3. It's false labor basically. But when I went in, they checked me, they had like my birthing suite ready, the tub was filling up, essential oils were brewing. It was very much so what makes me feel comfortable and at home. Shoot, my other daughter woke up. I'm gonna try to rush this. Hey Riley, mommy's gonna come get you in just a couple minutes. Go ahead and read your books and play, okay? I'll be right there. Hopefully she's okay for a couple more minutes. So yeah, the essential oils were brewing and the bed was ready. Like, everything was just perfect. A perfect setting in my mind to have a baby in a really peaceful environment. And yeah, I was excited. So they checked me and they said I was at 5 centimeters, and my jaw hit the floor. I was so shocked because to get to 5 centimeters with my last labor, I mean, it felt like a marathon. It felt like the contractions really hurt, and it was just long. I think I had like 24 hours of labor before I got to 5 centimeters with my first daughter. So to have me be at 5 and really not be thinking that I'm even in labor, that was shocking to me. So she said I was 80 to 90% effaced, so really thinned out, and the baby's head was +1 station. So that means if this is your cervix, their head was kind of here, just ready to go. There's basically 4 stations. So there's -3, -2, -1, 0 station, and then +1 station. So the head was just hanging, just ready to go, ready to come out. And I just needed to dilate to 10, and then we would have a baby. So as soon as they checked my cervix, they flipped me over to listen for the heartbeat, and they could not find it. Like, it was like a minute of searching, they could not find the heartbeat. And I was kind of like talking to my midwife, shooting the shit, like, how's your family doing? And not really thinking like anything maybe was going wrong. And they couldn't find the heartbeat, and I thought to myself, like, oh, shouldn't there be like a heartbeat that we are listening to at this point? And then they found it, and I heard it, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. It was so slow, and I was starting to like really think like, oh my gosh, that's my baby's heartbeat, like what is going on? And she said it was 60 beats per minute. And immediately they just like had the ambulance coming over from the actual hospital that was attached to the birth center. It's weird, like they're next door, but they're still across the street. So to transfer, it's basically sister locations. So to transfer, it still takes an ambulance ride, even though they're literally side by side building wise, and the ambulance ride is maybe a minute. Yeah, it was crazy. They called the ambulance, and they immediately like flipped me over on my back and stuck an IV in me and put me on oxygen, and I'd never had any of this before. So it was just like very quick, and so many things were happening at once. I heard them on the phone like talking to the doctors in the OR to have C-section, basically like that, yeah, she needs to be prepped and all this stuff, and like they're saying that on the phone. And then another one was on the phone with the ambulance, I guess the paramedics that were in the ambulance, and they were all rushing to the room. Basically 2 minutes after they had heard the slow heartbeat, I was on a stretcher, and yeah, oxygen IV, and they were rushing me. And at this point, like my midwife just said, focus on getting your baby oxygen. So at that point, I just like really tuned into my breathing. I was basically just focusing on listening to that hypnobirthing soundtrack and breathing. So I was on the stretcher on my side, and as soon as I got into the OR, they started doing an ultrasound and a heartbeat sticker that goes up your cervix and is on the head of the baby so that they can get the most accurate read of the heartbeat. And then they had the belly bands that go on you. Everything started to normalize, and I was praying the entire time that was what we were going to hear, that they'll be able to have a vaginal birth and like hopefully have a somewhat peaceful birthing experience, even though it was in the hospital, not my first choice necessarily. It was still going to be something that I had control over, if that makes sense. Like I feel like at the time I was really okay with having a C-section. I knew that if that was the safest option for my baby, that was what I wanted. But at the same time, I was like in tears because I had my first daughter unmedicated vaginally, and it was such an amazing experience, and I was really looking forward to having that again. And to hear that could possibly not be an option was really hard. Like they weren't asking like, do you want to have a C-section? As soon as they wheeled me in on the stretcher into the hospital, the doctor was saying, we are going to prep you for a C-section. When was the last time you ate? It was like just flat out like that. So, at that point, when I was hearing that, I was like, okay, this is what it is. And I care about my baby's health, and I just want to have a healthy baby. Obviously, it would be really heartbreaking to have that C-section though, because I had something different in my mind, like not even thinking that it was really a possibility to have a C-section, especially because this girlie was breech all the way up until 37 weeks, and C-section was our only option at that point, and then she flipped. So I had all this hope that we would have a vaginal birth, and then it was like kind of slowly being ripped away from me, which was a little bit heartbreaking. So I was crying, and it was very emotional, but everything started to normalize, and thank God. We ended up in an OR recovery bay with monitors for about 2 hours. They had to monitor the heartbeat and my heart rate and my blood pressure, because my blood pressure just skyrocketed just from all the stress and hearing that my baby was not doing well. Like she was very much so in distress. Yeah, my blood pressure was high. So after they cleared us to move from the OR recovery bay to a labor and delivery room, they had a tub there. You can't deliver in the tub at all in a hospital setting, but you can labor in it. So I got in the tub pretty quickly just to try to like relax. It wasn't that my contractions hurt so bad that I needed to relieve the pain. It was more so like I needed to relax and focus on just having this baby. My labor just was not progressing. So they checked me at I think 5 p.m. and they said you're maybe at a 6 and still like fully effaced, like really thinned out, and still at a +1 station. So everything was looking up, but my body was just like, so I think when you look into how the body works naturally to have babies, and you think about like primal reactions for women that are in labor or animals that are in labor, anytime fear comes into the mix, the body just like tenses up and shuts down. And I think that's exactly what happened to my body. It just was not feeling like this was a safe place to have a baby, because I had just been rushed on an ambulance over to a new place, a place that I didn't expect, and it was just very like wham bam, like this is not a good setting. So I think it was hard for my body to really like find that relaxation, and my water had not broken. So with my first daughter, my water broke as I was transitioning. So I think around 8 centimeters is when it broke, and then I immediately was like at a 10 after 2 more contractions. So it happened really quickly, basically right before I started pushing. My water broke with my first daughter. I thought that might be how my second water broke also. However, the nurse suggested like maybe we should break your water to start trying to progress you to 10 centimeters, because you're sitting here like at 6-7 centimeters. And they had checked me again at 9 p.m. and I'm thankful that like we kind of waited a little bit, because I got to eat and kind of rest and get a little bit more energy. But it was 9 p.m. and I was ready to have the baby, and I was still like at 6-7 centimeters. So I really wanted things to progress, and I decided to have the nurse break my water. And for me, that was not painful. I've heard for many women that it can be a really painful experience, but for me, like it just felt like a warm gush, and the hook didn't hurt. Like I think they were really gentle, which helped. So it definitely depends on the nurse and all that. But yeah, it was immediately intense after my water broke. Like my first contraction came, and I was like, okay, this is exactly what I remember of in terms of intensity and how hard this is going to be. Like I knew in that moment, like this is going to be really hard, and I need to focus on my breath and getting this baby out, because I think she's going to be here soon. I really hope this doesn't take a long time, but I need to focus on progressing and letting my body work to bring her head down and to open up. So I got in the tub again, and I mean, it just really kicked off. Like I just started crying immediately. I think all the emotions came back, and it just flooded me that I was going to have a second baby, that it wasn't going to be my first anymore, and she was going to join our family. Actually, I keep saying she. I did not know the gender. I did not know if it was a boy or a girl. Like my husband and I had no idea. We thought 100% this girl was a boy. Like from the moment I got pregnant, I was like, I think it's a boy. I was so wrong. Everything was wrong. Everyone was wrong. No one guessed girl. Maybe like 2 people guessed girl, but yeah, she was coming in that tub, and it was happening quick. So my water broke at 9:45, and I had her at 11:06. So as soon as I got into the tub, really everything just hit me, and I was starting to progress a ton, and the pain was, the pressure and the pain were really intense, and that's all I can say. It gets so intense, and in that moment, like you don't even really think about a pain relief option. You almost just think like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. That's all that went through my mind. And I really had to like listen to my husband and tune it back and just figure out how I was going to make it through the next like 30 minutes, because that was all I needed. Like in the tub, I started to feel her head just kind of like slowly drop, and I kept feeling water gush. So I knew that my body was pushing her head down, and water was just kind of flooding out as the contractions were moving her head. So I thought pushing was like right around the corner, and it was, but they had to like get me out of the tub, and that was really hard, because the tub is like a natural pain reliever. I would say it's like the poor man's epidural, and once you get out, like like it's just gonna stink. It's just gonna suck. Like you just have to make it through the next couple of contractions to get to that 10, and then you can start pushing. So they got me out of the tub, and I was contracting while they were doing this. And yeah, if you haven't watched my birth video, watch it up top, click it up top, because they moved me from the tub and it just is really hard at that point. And I laid down on my side and used a peanut ball to kind of open up my hips. That didn't end up really working in my favor. So they kind of took that out and just started to let my body contract naturally and do it on my hips, I guess. I'm not really sure what she was thinking, or like what her idea was to have me on my hips. I was really confused in that part of my labor, because she said like, don't push, but then I kept saying like, I feel like my body is pushing all on its own, and I feel like I'm at 10, like I feel like I'm crowning. And she kind of was just like, okay. And I was just like, okay, what are we doing? Like, can I push? What's happening? So I kind of just listened to my body at that point, and if I felt the need to push during a contraction, I kind of just use that as practice pushes. I really feel like I didn't start pushing until I got to 10, but I think when you're in that point of labor, your body is really doing most of the pushing on its own. Like, it's pushing your baby down to open your cervix anyways. So there is some pushing happening, and I think that's what I was feeling. But yeah, I went to 10, and I think 3 or 4 contractions as soon as I got out of the tub. So it was very quick. And the contractions were maybe 2 minutes apart. And once you get to 10, everything kind of settles, and you just focus on pushing at that point. It's not about the pain or the pressure of the contraction anymore. It's mostly just about like, I need to move this baby out, down and out of my body. It's been really hard, and I need to get this baby out, and that's all I could think about. And in my birth video, I say like, get out, Shiloh, like multiple times, just because, yeah, I was done. I was ready to see her and meet her, and I was ready to like find out the gender. It had been so long. 40 weeks is a long time to wait to figure out if you have a girl or a boy in there. And yeah, it was just like, it's time. So I pushed her out in 2 minutes, and she was home. She came out, and her umbilical cord was wrapped around her neck. So the nurse said that she kind of like hooked it and like released it as I was pushing her out. And yeah, there was like a minute or two where she was just a little blue. They wiped her down, and she was breathing, and it was amazing. It was an amazing moment. And just like, I just feel like God worked the entire situation together, and there was fear and unknown, but I feel like my prayers were totally answered. Like I had prayed so many times when she was breached, like, please turn this baby. I need this baby to turn. Like I know that like this baby can come out naturally, and I can do it, and I'm excited to do it, and I want to do it. But if I can't, I have to have a C-section, and I know if that's your plan, that's your plan, but like, that's not what I want. And I feel like that prayer was just totally answered. And yeah, I just kept having that threat of like, you don't get to choose. And I think that really helped me have more perspective on birth and different ways that birth can happen. And like, there's no wrong way to have a baby. I firmly believe that. And I think you can have your preference, and that's not wrong either. And yeah, it was my preference to have her naturally unmedicated, and I'm so glad I did. Like, it's hard, and it's like almost like a near-death experience, if I can even say that. I feel like it is. It's difficult. It's really hard. And even if you do all the hypnobirthing courses, I still think it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be hard. But you can do it. Like, your body was made to do it. And if you have to have a C-section, like, that's okay too, and you will recover, and it will be all right. Like, he's got you. So thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe down below. If you have any experiences that you want to share, definitely leave them in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next one.